No.
Welcome to the My Haunt Life podcast.
Hello and welcome to the My Haunt Life podcast. I'm Mike.
And I'm Russell.
I can't believe it. It's 2017.
Finally.
Where did the time go?
2016 flew by, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I think it flew by because there was so much going on. Like, we were really lucky this year.
Yeah, 2016, especially in the Los Angeles area, did explode with all sorts of new immersive experiences, and the haunt season had so much to offer. It really was a good year.
Did you do anything fun over the holidays?
I went home, or actually to visit my mom. So, which is weird for me because my mom moved after I left home, so it's not home to me, but I digress.
Anything scary or spooky happen besides having to stay with your mom?
I detect you're leading the witness here.
No, I'm just wondering. Because all that stuff is all around.
So, yes, I did mention to you that I remembered something. Do you remember a couple of podcasts ago, who asked us about real life scares?
That was Chris from Sunspots Comics.
Right. You know, we both have had things in our lives that you know, we encountered that were scary. And when I went home, how do I succinctly put this? My mom now lives in a town where I went to college for a couple of years. So after I left that area, she actually moved to where I went to college, if that makes sense. So I went to college for a couple of years in a dry county, which if you don't know what a dry county is, it means no alcohol is allowed within the county limits. So you have a college located in the middle of a county where alcohol is not permitted.
Oof.
So kids would constantly go across the county line, and I'm not much of a partier, Mike. I don't know if you've noticed that about me.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So I was not a heavy partier in college, but what would happen is, because it was a dry county, the college kids would go out into the pine forests nearby, and they would find campsites, or they would go down by the creek, and they would like have fun, and they would build a bonfire or something like that.
I'm surprised no one's made a movie based on this.
So kids in the middle of nowhere building a bonfire and camping out for a night.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's so original.
Well, there was this really cool area. It was an old rock quarry, and the area in where I'm talking about is a lot of red clay. So it got the nickname Mars, because under the light of a moon, it was all orange.
That sounds cool.
It was very cool. And so a lot of kids, if they knew about this area, they would say, like, hey, do you want to go to Mars tonight? And, you would go out and, if you wanted to drink or do whatever, like, that's where kids would do it, because they were away from the college and they were kind of in the middle of a pine forest in the middle of nowhere. So, but that's so that's the kind of area that I went to college in. So, I was driving around running errands and stuff, when I was home visiting my mom, and it reminded me of a story which I had completely forgotten about. And when Chris had asked us about real life scares, I actually remembered one I had forgotten about. And I told you I was going to tell you the story, and since you brought it up, I will share it here.
Did you forget it, or was it suppressed?
No, I just forgot it. So like I said, sort of a pine forest, middle of nowhere vibe, and two buddies of mine, Sean and Ron, I think Ron was my roommate at the time, I think Sean was the one that had been told that there was an abandoned railroad trestle. So Sean had been told about this abandoned railroad trestle on a railroad track that apparently was no longer used. So we had the bright idea that one night in the middle of the night, we were going to go find this abandoned railroad trestle and go explore. Just, because that's... we were three guys looking for an adventure, I guess. I don't know. And, Sean, I think Sean was the one who was driving, but we ended up like parking in the middle of a pine forest and finding the railroad track that led supposedly to this abandoned railroad trestle. So it's a bright moonlit night, and we're in the middle of a forest. So we were walking single file along the railroad track, and if you can, I'm going to try to paint this image. we didn't have flashlights or anything with us. So we were in the complete dark, basically, except it was such a moonlit night, but the railroad tracks were going through the forest. So if you looked ahead and you looked above you, you could see the sky. And if you looked ahead, the trees sort of lined the railroad track. So if you looked ahead, you could see the night sky ahead of you. But right around us was pretty dark. So we're walking, and we're just talking, about stuff. And as we're walking, we realize that we think we see the railroad trestle ahead of us. And like I said, this was an old abandoned railroad track, not in use. So Sean is walking first, and Ron is in front of me, and I'm the third one. I'm in the last place. So we're just talking, we're walking forward. We realize that we're near the railroad trestle because the forest, the trees are starting to open up and get wider, and there's a little bit more light. And I'm looking forward, and because of the way the light is hitting, I only see Sean and Ron's figures. I really don't see them. I just see black figures walking in front of me. And Sean, who was the first one, vanishes. And we hear a short scream, and Ron and I immediately freeze because I realized that Ron saw it too. Like, Sean literally vaporized. And there was this moment of silence, and we hear Sean kind of muffled say, "Don't move." Okay, Sean was a smoker. So suddenly, there's a little faint glow on the ground. And Sean says, "Guys, I just fell in a hole." Because we were walking in the dark and we couldn't see very well, Sean literally fell in about a 6 to 7 foot hole. And that's why he screamed suddenly. And that's why he told us not to move, is because he realized that we were going to fall on top of him if we continued. But that moment of Ron and I looking forward and walking, and Sean literally just vanishing because he just plummeted out of sight. He just stepped forward and screamed for a second. So Ron and I move forward, and Sean has flicked a lighter on because, like I said, he was the smoker in the bunch. And Ron and I peer over the edge of this hole, and what has happened is we were so close to the trestle that this was an area where the ground had started to give way underneath the railroad track.
Oh, wow.
And Sean had fallen basically through the railroad track and into this hole. And so Sean is laying there, and immediately you're like, "Are you okay? Are you hurt? Did you break anything?" And so Sean's like, no, I think I'm fine. And he's kind of checking himself because it freaked him out, obviously. It freaked us out. And then, Ron and I just started laughing. And Sean is like, "Guys, it's not funny. You have to get me out of here." And Ron and I are just rolling with laughter. Because we're looking down at Sean at the bottom of this hole with a cigarette lighter, laying on the ground. And we eventually got him up, and we eventually did explore the railroad trestle. But I had forgotten that, like, how that terrifying that was to literally be looking at something in front of you and have a friend vaporize. And he vanished. It was such an odd thing.
You mean like this?
See, I always knew he had magical powers.
And I'm back.
Thank you very much, Mike.
I hope I didn't scare you.
You've scared me, but not then. So, but anyway, yeah, there was just because we were talking recently about real life scary stories, and I completely forgot about that until I was driving the back roads of a pine forest in Mississippi, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember the night Sean scared the hell out of us by falling into a hole."
Do you have any urban legends growing up there? Like, because I know Jersey has the Pine Barrens, and they have the Jersey Devil there, and usually whenever there's woods, there's some sort of urban legend.
There is. I'm trying to remember if I'm remembering this correctly. There's an area called Singing River, which the legend of that is there was an Indian tribe that rather than surrender to the immigrating, the advancement of people into their territory, they all joined hands and walked into a local river and drowned themselves. And they were singing as they were drowning. And the legend goes that if you're there at night, and you listen so you can hear them softly singing to this day.
That's awesome.
So,
did you ever try to hear them?
So, you know what? Actually, there was one time, but it was during the day, unfortunately. We never went out there at night.
I'm surprised.
So it wasn't really easily located near me. So, but yeah, there's that. There is an area called, I believe it's called the Whispering Pines. I believe it was an old logging. Yeah, I believe that's what it was an old logging area. And supposedly the trees tell the tales of the people that were there before. You know, I'd heard that. I think I've only heard that once or twice. So I don't think that's really considered an urban legend. I just think it's passed down through families there. But yeah, the Singing River one is really well known. Where I grew up, unfortunately, there was the famous haunted house. There was one abandoned house, and I wanted to go to it so badly. And I wasn't even in the 6th grade. I was really young, and none of my friends would go. And they tore it down like right before summer of my 6th to 7th grade, and so they tore, and it's now a subdivision. But I remember peering down the road and looking at the house, going, "Someday I'm going to go explore that house." But I was too scared to do it on my own, especially since I was in the 6th grade and very young.
Yeah.
It's a little young to be going and exploring abandoned houses by yourself. But yeah, not a lot, but there's a few things in the Mississippi area where I grew up.
Cool.
So how about you?
How about me? What?
Any urban legends from your area?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a ton. Just growing up in New England, there's Dudleyville, which is this abandoned town. And if you brought anything back from it, you would get haunted and weird things would happen. So if you brought like a rock back from that area, bad things would happen to you.
Wow. Interesting.
I think many places have this, but Midgetville.
What is Midgetville?
Where it's a town of tiny houses only for midgets or dwarves or whatever.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Supposedly there's one in California somewhere as well. Like those are, I think every state has one of those actually.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So those are the big ones.
Okay. And what about you? How about your holiday?
It was very low key, which is awesome. I did a lot of reflecting, and I actually have a funny question for you. So,
I hate your funny questions.
Well, no, you know how like every podcast is doing like what were your top 3 moments of 2016? What are you looking forward to in 2017? Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it and I thought, okay, I try to be funny sometimes. What if we talk about the things we're not looking forward to? But like it's those things that you really are looking forward to, but there's portions of it that you're not, and it's more of a funny thing than actually not looking forward to it, if that makes sense.
Go on.
So here's my first example. Victim experience. That's coming back in 2017.
Right.
It's something that we're both excited about, but at the same time, we're not looking forward to it. See what I mean? Because we know what happens in there.
Yes.
So victim experience would be my first thing. And
actually, if I were going to make a list, that would have to be on mine.
Oh, of course, especially with Warren like messing with us already.
Yeah, and you know, it is what is it, the 25th anniversary?
25th anniversary of the Freakling Brothers.
Yeah, which I love the Freakling Brothers so much. I'm sure we will be making the trek to Vegas during the haunt season, but I don't know if I'm going back to the victim experience or not.
Yeah. I don't know either. I'm debating.
It doesn't, it's if they keep threatening to make it more intense, probably not.
Yeah.
Because it's intense enough already. It's plenty intense. So, but yeah, I see what you mean. It's like I'm excited, but not necessarily looking forward to it. Do you have any others?
Yeah, I have 2 more.
Okay.
The next would be Midsummer Scream and Scare LA being a week apart.
Oh, that's right.
So as amazing and awesome as that is, man, after those 2 weeks, we were dead.
Yeah, exhausted.
But I'm super looking forward to what they have this year. Like, I can't wait. But it's one of those, just march through everything. And
yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be interesting to see. We talked about this on the podcasts last fall. The idea that those are 2 conventions that they are, I think, going to end up developing slightly different personalities.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really interesting. And it is a, too much good stuff situation for our area, and the fact that we do have 2 haunt conventions so close together in the middle of late summer.
And I know there's people listening to this that don't live here that are probably rolling their eyes right now. Like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? That's on your list because there's 2 Halloween conventions a week apart. Like, you don't know. You don't understand. And then the last one is the Lust Experience. Like, I'm so excited and looking forward to it, but man, I am so not looking forward to it.
I don't know what to say about the Lust Experience.
Yeah, I don't think anybody does. I mean, obviously we don't really know much other than we keep getting promised that our hearts are going to break. And
Yeah,
I mean,
I swear I think Lust is probably for titillation and advertising because they keep going back to let's talk about your heart.
yeah.
So
And I mean, everybody that did Tension's heart got broken at the end.
yes, in many ways.
So I don't know. I mean, I love Lust just because of the funny perverted puns I could make. But when it comes to the emotional stuff that's bound to happen, so not looking forward to it.
Interesting.
So that's my list of things I'm not looking forward to, but really looking forward to and excited about.
Interesting perspective. I don't know. I understand your comments on Lust, but I think Lust will be interesting. I am looking forward to
Oh,
it,
yeah.
I think.
No, I am too.
I think.
Well, you're not a delicate flower, so.
No, I am not. Wow. I don't know. I don't. Nothing comes to mind immediately with that kind of a perspective, but I totally understand everything you've said.
Yeah. I'm just trying to change it up a bit.
Okay. Anything else that you did, Mike?
Yes, I actually finally, after persevering and checking many websites and in-stock notifications, got a PSVR, which is a PlayStation Virtual Reality, or PSVR, or PlayStation VR, whatever you want to call it. And holy crap, I think this is the first time I left my house since I got it.
And I will admit that Mike invited me over for an afternoon and kind of said that, yeah, oh, you really need to check this out, Russell. You really need to see this. And then as I was approaching your house, you sent me a text. I apologize in advance for the fact that I'm going to show this to you, and you're going to want one. I know you have mentioned this to me several times. I know you've been saving your pennies
Yeah.
for this.
Ever since it was Project Morpheus, I was looking forward to this. And sorry, the Gamer Geek is coming out now. But yeah, I was waiting for it. And then the PS Pro came out and PSVR and oh man, and just the horror games that you can do in VR. You know, like I had you play Until Dawn Rush of Blood, which is a horror, creepy carnival roller coaster where you have to shoot things. And I have gotten scared. It's amazing.
Right.
And I mean,
Oh, yes, me.
I don't mean that in a bad way, but like now Russell's haunt noises can be heard all year round, and it's amazing. I mean, what did you think of playing that one specifically?
I had an absolute blast. I really did, and it's interesting because I am not a gamer, and I didn't grow up playing video games. I had an arcade phase, like when in the late 80s, but my speed was my favorite arcade game was Mr. Do's Wild Ride. Come on. Don't laugh at me like that.
Well, I was going to make a joke saying, what's an arcade?
So, Mr. Do's Wild Ride was very fun, and there was a strategy to it. So, but I didn't grow up with controllers in my hand.
Yeah, we know what you grew up with in your hand.
Really? So, moving on. So, I don't have the natural innate. Like at one point, you put a controller in my hand last weekend. You had to really explain, because you were like, "Oh, the left thumb button."
Right.
And I was like, wait, and I had to find it because you're used to that. You know the controller, and it feels natural in your hand. That doesn't feel natural in my hand. So I don't have a really.
Sorry. I can't help it. We were just talking about lust and perverted puns.
Oh man! So anytime that I had one of the controllers and I was pulling or twisting or rubbing.
Really? Why were you rubbing my controller?
So I mean, like toggling, like.
Oh man.
Okay. It just didn't come naturally.
That it didn't come naturally. Oh, amazing.
So, to answer your question, yes, I thoroughly enjoyed Until Dawn: Rush of Blood. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, besides the obvious horror games and you watching you jump and freak out, and I'm not making fun of you because I did the exact same thing, because it's virtual reality, so it's like you are there.
Yeah.
And you are immersed in this video game.
Right.
This is another form of immersive entertainment.
Yes.
And it's awesome. And one of the main reasons I wanted to bring you down is to play these 2 puzzle games that I got.
Right.
Since the PSVR got released, I was doing a bunch of research on people's top games and what everyone is talking about. And there were 2 games that were constantly at the top of that list. Mm-hmm. One of them is I Expect You to Die, and the other one is Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes.
Right.
So, I mean, right there, just in the titles for people like us,
yeah,
like puzzle games that have to do with death and explosions, we're in.
Well, you sent me a link for I Expect You to Die, and I literally read maybe 2 or 3 sentences, and then I closed it, and I texted you, I so have to do this, and I'm not finding anything else out about it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to know anything until I came down to your place.
So we'll start with I Expect You to Die. I Expect You to Die is a virtual reality puzzle game that places you in the well-polished shoes of an elite secret agent. You must attempt to survive deadly situations in immersive, dangerous locales. And that's what you do. Mm-hmm. And you are basically playing a one-person escape room.
Yeah.
And you're using the PlayStation Move controllers, or you can use a regular controller to move things, pick things up. But if you make one wrong decision or one wrong move, the name of the game is I Expect You to Die. They expect you to die, so they have many different ways that you can die.
Yes, I experienced many of them.
And another good thing about this is, and I mentioned this to you previously, but everything clicked with you, Russell. When you and I do escape rooms, I'm not focusing on what you're doing. I'm focusing on puzzles in a corner of a room, trying to figure them out. I'm not watching you. I'm not watching your thought process.
Right.
Watching you play I Expect You to Die, it all clicked on certain aspects of the way you think. Interesting. And that to me is invaluable. Like, that's worth the price of everything right there. And no, you laugh, but it's true, because now the next time we do an escape room, I'm going to be thinking about you playing I Expect You to Die and be like, oh yeah, this is how he thinks. And I'm not, well, I mean, I probably still will get frustrated with you at certain points, but watching you play and me having played it before you, so I obviously knew where things were, right, what you had to do, but it was very eye-opening to me to see you the way you think, you trap yourself in a box.
Yes, I do.
And you don't look outside of it.
Yes,
there were certain clues in that first puzzle. It's like you're looking right at it. You're looking at it. Why aren't you doing anything with it? But because it wasn't in your box, so to speak, yeah, you did not even consider that. And this is not making fun of you. This is just it's so helpful. I think.
I totally don't think you're making fun of me. It's interesting because at one point, as I was playing, and I had gotten like 3/4 of the way through the puzzle, and I died, and I restarted, and I did something, and you were in the room, and of course I can't see Mike because I have the virtual headset on, and you asked me this question, like, why are you doing that? And it was just simply because, I moved 3 items because I wanted one available to me. And like, you asked me the question, like, oh, I'm stuck in a pattern.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, okay, this worked. Maybe this is what sports fans do with superstitions. The fact that I knew I'd gotten so far by doing this, I'm going to do it again.
Okay.
So, but it's really interesting for me. And I don't know if you realize this, Mike. Like, I told you, but I was so frustrated by I Expect You to Die. Mm-hmm. But I absolutely freaking love this game.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
Why?
because I'm horrible at it.
That makes sense.
And
Because you can learn from it.
exactly.
And that's one of the good things about the game is they let you learn from your mistakes.
Yes.
There's no checkpoints, so it's not like if you get to a certain point, you start from there. If you die, you start from the very beginning
Yep.
and have to go through all the steps again, which I thought was great because in interviews I've read with the creators, that's on purpose. Like they want you to learn from your mistakes.
And that was amazing for me because there was, I missed a very, very big obvious thing, you know, and it's like they give you an image, you know, that you can look at and like, oh, all right, this is an image on a piece of paper, but I can apply it to real life. But in real life, there was one added element, and I just looked at it, and it is literally labeled. And I don't want to say the word, but it's literally, and it's basically a huge freaking arrow that says, do this, and I didn't see it.
Was it press the button?
Yes.
Well, and that's the funny thing, and another way that we're different, you know, because you go to that saying the paper says this, and I see a big shiny red button, I'm going to press it all day long, instructions or not, you know, and until I die, then I know, oh, I died pressing that. I probably shouldn't press it anymore.
I remember pressing a button in an escape room once and us losing time because of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really want to play the rest of this. And like I said, and look, I started on the other level and you watched me completely get stuck. Mm-hmm. I drove away from your house thinking about that puzzle and going, okay, wait, what did I not try? And actually taking a break and thinking, oh, like, wait, I didn't pull this. I didn't move that. I didn't, you know, it's like I broke something. And then I got into the habit of breaking it every time I tried to go into the room. And then I was like, wait, what if I don't break it?
And that's the cool thing, because there's different ways for you to finish what you started and to unlock the other things. You know, so instead of it being super, super linear, where you must do this one thing to do this next thing to do that following thing, you can do this, or you can do that, or you can do that thing over there in order to accomplish that first objective. Mm-hmm. And then the same thing with the second. So it's linear in a sense that you have to do certain steps. You have to have certain objectives in order to escape or to finish the level, but it's not only one thing in each of those objectives. Like there's different ways to do things.
Yeah, and I kept finding every time I restarted the first sequence of I expect you to die, I freaking love this thing, man. I really do. I would look at everything, and I know what you're saying, that I got caught in patterns of like, oh wait, I tried that, so like it didn't work, and then that's how I eventually unlocked it for me. Was, oh wait, I didn't do it in this order. What if I move this first? Mm-hmm. And I love the fact that they give you props that you don't use.
Yeah,
because I was convinced I needed that gun. And you know, there's in both scenarios there were guns, and I kept looking at it going, this is such a thing. It's a huge prop, and then I realized like, oh wait, it's sort of a red herring, I think, but I might need it later. And so what I did, and this was the fun part for me, I actually used the gun a couple of times just to see what would happen, mm-hmm. and I died over and over again.
Want me to mess with your head right now?
Sure.
You can actually use the gun in order to finish your objective.
Really?
That's all I'm going to say. Insert thinking music.
Oh, wait. What? Oh, dude. Oh, wait. What's off to the left?
Off to the left.
Does it involve something off to the left?
I don't remember.
Oh, damn. All right.
I mean, I remember, but...
Oh, I'm so going to buy a virtual reality headset at some point. You are so getting me addicted to something I should not be addicted to.
Hey, it's better than drugs.
So, true. So, Mike is a bad influence sometimes.
Oh, and just one thing, like, I mean, the intro to I Expect You to Die, it's like you're watching a 60s Bond film.
Oh, yeah.
But in virtual reality. Like, that was such a good and clever way to have people see that.
You're talking about the credit sequence.
Yeah, the opening credits.
Oh, yeah. It's so much fun.
Yeah, and you see all the different ways you can die, and
Oh yeah, for film nerds out there, think a virtual reality sequence designed by Saul Bass or something like that. That I'm getting really nerdy there for the film guys.
Go for it.
Yeah, I really thoroughly enjoyed this thing, and I cannot wait to work more through the levels, and now you want me to go back and replay the levels that I have done.
Oh, I'm not saying I want you to. But
I want to.
See, and that's what's funny, because while you were playing that, especially once you got past the first level and started on the second level and you started to get frustrated.
Yeah.
When Russell gets frustrated, especially with him having a big virtual reality headset on, it's really funny because I don't know if he's talking to himself or if he's talking to me.
I'm usually talking to myself.
So it's like, I don't know what to do. And you get so aggro and frustrated, and it's funny. And I'm just sitting there kind of snickering, but at the same time, like thinking, crap, he's going to want to come back and play. And I'm going to have to sit here and watch him get frustrated for another day.
No, you can go mow the lawn or something. I don't know. Yeah, I do. But, that, like I said, I love this game so much because of that frustration. Because also, I think we talked about this briefly, and this is a good thing about me we've talked in past podcasts about, I have this kind of good ability to sort of drop into a immersive theater piece really easily. And I think that's because of my training as a film editor, the fact that I have to watch a story over and over again and look at it from new perspectives. The weird thing is, I seem to not be able to do that in escape rooms or in this game. And I think the reason is because most of my storytelling that I do for my job is very linear, especially since I work on material aimed toward children or young adults. So I do work in a world where you have to be very structured and very linear, or at least the corporate companies that I've worked for always see it that way. Like, we have to be simple for our audience. Like, no, you don't always have to be simple for your audience. It's like, I don't want to say use the phrase dumb it down, but if you're going to dumb it down, how dumb do you make it? And I think that's part of my roadblock in puzzles. I start thinking linearly, and like you said, I trap myself in a box. And this game helped me realize how badly I do that.
Oh, I mean, this is going to sound weird, but good.
Oh, yeah. That's excellent. Don't know if I can overcome it.
You can. Oh. You will. But one of the things that you just mentioned is, dumbing it down. How dumb do you make it? Mm-hmm. And this is not aimed at I Expect You to Die, because it's not dumbed down.
No.
But what I really, really loved about this is, in video games, in past video games where there were puzzle games, you would find things that in your mind could work. Mm-hmm. Just a random example. It's like, oh, if I take this pencil and stick it in this hole, but the game was not designed, like a past game, that would not have worked. But in I Expect You to Die, if you try things like that, a lot of them work. And it's so cool. Because there are so many different ways to do things. I don't want to say anything without spoilers, but because there's so many different ways to get past an objective, all of those things that wouldn't work in past games work here, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, and you just gave me an idea for that first level of something else I want to try.
Yeah, and that's another thing. The replayability is so good because of that.
Because you die.
Well, no. I mean, even when you beat the game. So yeah. I beat the game, and I got all the souvenirs. There's things that you can do that unlock souvenirs, and they show up in your office later. So I got all the souvenirs. I'm still going back to play it because of the fact that there are things to try. There's there's other ways to do things, and finding those out, it's so fun. Yesterday I found out I could do something with a caulking gun, and it was like, oh my God, I can't believe this works. Like, this is so cool. Like that makes like 3 different ways you can do something else.
Oh, cool.
Oh, and speaking of the caulking gun, if anyone at Shell Games is listening, more squid battles.
I have no idea what you mean.
No, I know. Here's something else. Once you get past a certain level, I noticed this after I beat the game, so I don't know if it unlocks after you finish the game, but they have kind of bubbles, like pop-up bubbles that you can look at, and if you press them, it's the game designers and people that made the game giving you kind of like behind-the-scenes type stuff.
Oh, that's very cool.
And so there's one level where Squid Battle gets mentioned. I don't want to say anything to spoil it for you because you haven't reached that level yet.
Yeah, the replayability, the fun factor on this thing, I have fallen in love with this game.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm horrible at it. I really am, though. But here's another thing. I hope you realize that sometimes you've gotten frustrated in escape rooms with me. Yeah. Because it's like just tell me how this connects to this. And like, that's not important right now. But do you see now why I'm thinking that way?
I don't. Because
let me think of it. All right, here's a specific example. We did an escape room where there were two ways to get the same solution. Mm-hmm. And what I didn't know is if we needed to find more numbers.
Got it.
So I turned around and asked you, like, where did that come from? And you said, that's not important. I said, actually, yeah, it is. Because we're missing one number. Where did you get that one? Because I got one from over on the other wall.
Right.
And it's like, and you didn't see that I was trying to put together two different things to get the solution. And you're like, no, you're thinking about it wrong. It's not important. Like, no, actually, the way these two things connect is how we get the solution. And you didn't realize that that's what I was trying to do. Yeah. So, and I know sometimes you get frustrated with me, but it's usually, it's a connection thing that I'm trying to make.
A lot of that frustration, though, is asking, when there's a ticking time and running out, and it's like, we have like 5 minutes left. It's like, no, I'll tell you after. No, it's not important right now.
Usually don't ask those questions if there's only 5 minutes. Yeah, but now I hope you see that it's usually me trying to make a connection to see if it leads someplace else.
Right.
But my problem is I think linearly.
With I Expect You to Die, you have to throw that all out the window.
And it forced me to, and how long...
Literally.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's kind of an in-joke for people who know the game. The fact that it's forcing me to do that, how long did it take me?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, I'm asking you. Like,
for that first level?
Yeah.
Almost an hour, maybe?
Yeah, before I started to really rethink and go like, I am being so silly about this. About the way I'm going about this. And you joked with me later that the fact that there's a prop that you need, and the prop is visible to you, and you said, the prop was right there. I had not seen the prop.
Oh, okay.
It took me a little while to realize that I was looking at a picture and that I had to go find it. And that's when I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And I had played the level multiple times and didn't look at something that was right in front of me. And there's something next to that prop which I did not use, which I'm sure it's got to be useful somehow. So yeah, it's like the replayability of this thing, the fun factor. This is just plain fun.
Yeah, it's a one-person escape room.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you are a fan of escape rooms and you have a virtual reality setup, right now it's only available for the Oculus and the PSVR, but it's well worth it. There's 4 levels, super, super, super fun. A lot of things to find, a lot of things to unlock. Like, we love this game, and I can't wait to see Russell play it again. And maybe we'll Periscope it or something.
No, we won't. No.
Well, you won't know.
Too embarrassing. Way too embarrassing.
But for more information on I Expect You to Die, you can go to iexpectyouTodie.shellgames.com, and Shell is spelled SCHELL. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/IEYTD. So it's the first letter of I Expect You to Die of every word. And Twitter, same thing, IEYTD. And for more information on Shell Games, the company behind I Expect You to Die, you can find them on the web at shellgames.com. Once again, that's SCHELL. On Facebook, Shell Games, and on Twitter, Shell Games. And we did another puzzle game while you were there, which I was worried about when we... Because I thought we were going to be at each other's throats in this one. with frustration.
Okay, I can see why you would think that. I honestly can see why you would think that. But when you explained it to me, I thought this is going to be so good for us.
Yeah.
Just as like because we do escape rooms together.
It's our marriage counseling.
Yeah. It's sort of like beating the pillow, to work out your aggression. So, yeah, when you described this to me, I thought, okay, this is either going to make us kill each other or like I'm going to see more about how you think.
Right.
Describe this.
Okay, so the game we're talking about is called Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, and that's put out by Steel Crate Games. And the description is, one player is trapped in a virtual room with a ticking time bomb they must defuse. The other players are the experts who must give the instructions to defuse the bomb by deciphering the information found in the bomb defusal manual. But there's a catch. The experts can't see the bomb, so everyone will need to talk it out fast. And that's a great description because when you play this on PSVR, the person who has the headset on sees the bomb and they're the one that has to defuse it. So everybody else in the room that's playing that can't see the screen, they have a bomb defusal manual. You can either print it out, you can look at it on the website, you can look at it on your phone, and it tells you how to defuse the bombs that the other person is seeing, but you are not.
I would recommend printing it out.
Yeah, and actually, I printed it out and I bound it together, so it's in a
like a 3-ring binder. Oh, yeah. Excellent. Because you end up flipping back and forth really quickly through a bunch of the pages.
Yeah, so it's about 20. I think it's 23 pages, and every page has a different module, and modules are what the puzzles are on the bomb. So, for example, there's a module with wires, and there can be anywhere from 3 to 6 wires, and the person wearing the VR headset or looking at the bomb has to tell everyone else, like, okay, there's one with wires and there's 5 wires. And then the people that are helping defuse will go to the wire module and they'll say, okay, are there any yellow wires? Are there red wires? And then based on what you see, they'll tell you which wire to cut.
And I think overall, we did fairly well.
We did really well. I was surprised.
I think I killed you once.
Yeah, you did.
Just because I was trying to be very methodical and we ran out of time.
But whenever there's a time limit, I see, and this game made me learn something about myself.
Yes.
Yeah. And granted, I knew it because, when there's time, I don't have time to dilly-dally if there's a countdown and I'm about to explode. So when you were like, okay, I see this one over here. I'm like, just tell me the symbols. I don't care what order they're in. Just tell me. Because I don't want you to die. So I'm trying. It's for the good of everything.
Yeah, right.
This is another puzzle game, but it's not so much an escape room. Although technically, I guess it could be because you have to get out before the bomb explodes.
Yeah, there's a time limit, and the time is ticking before the bomb explodes, and your whole goal is to defuse the bomb before it explodes.
But this is just brings another aspect to puzzles.
Oh, yeah.
And not being able to see and only communicating.
Yeah, this is really fun, and I really think this is party game material.
Definitely.
Especially now, there is a version of this that you can play not in virtual reality, correct?
There is. So this is available for virtual reality things like the Oculus, the Vive, PSVR, and mobile VR like Samsung Gear or Google Daydream. But you can also play it on a computer, so Windows or Mac.
Right.
So one person will be looking at the bomb on their computer, the other person can be across from them, telling them everything.
Yeah, this is so much fun. And you know what? Because I do work in a corporate world, one of the things I thought of is play this with your workmates.
Yeah. Team building.
Team building exercise, and a really fun one. And you will learn a lot about who you work with. This uncovers things in friendships, I guarantee you.
Whoops.
So, and it's like, look, I totally understand you get frustrated with me sometimes at my no, let's take this slow. Let's think about this.
Yeah. I'm like, we're going to explode.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought this to my attention. And it's very funny because I went into work after that weekend, and as soon as I mentioned Keep Talking, he was like, oh, I love that game. And he had done that.
Wow.
He had found it with a group of friends and was playing it.
Oh, cool.
So it's like, and and he actually sent me a link of online. There were some comedians who were trying to play it together, and actually I started to watch the video and I stopped watching it because they revealed modules that I hadn't seen.
Oh, okay.
So I stopped watching the video because I didn't want to learn from the video. I wanted to actually play the game and learn those modules. So, but yeah, I highly recommend this thing. I really enjoyed this as well.
And the other cool thing too is you don't have to be in the same room.
That's true.
So if you were bored one night and you were like, hey, let's play, as long as you have the bomb manual, you can play and tell me like I'm over the phone or something on speakerphone.
That would be cool.
Yeah, that would help a lot. No, just kidding. Because you wouldn't have to drive down to me. Yeah, we'll go with that one.
Mike lives far away.
Far-ish.
Far-ish. In LA terms, it's far away. This was a lot of fun. This was truly a lot of fun.
And the thing too is, granted it's a virtual bomb. Mm-hmm. That sense of joy that you get when you see all of the green lights go on, it's like, okay, I did it. You feel like you really just diffused a bomb.
Yeah. And the other thing about this, because in the virtual reality version of this, it also taught me that I don't look enough, like at the beginning of something. So because
you can turn the bomb around.
Exactly. And at one point you asked me you asked me about something about the bomb, and I was like, no, this bomb doesn't have any. And I was like, oh, and then
it's like, look on the sides, look in the back.
Well, you were reading something else, and I started and I was, because I knew, like I said, I'm not a gamer by nature. So what I was doing was I was playing with the controls. Like, oh, what does this do? Oh, like where's it? Oh, wait, there's other stuff on the other side. And I just, by playing around with the controllers, I realized like, oh, wait, I didn't think to literally just, I'll put it this way, I didn't think to turn the page.
Right.
Like, it was just like, because there's a new chapter.
It's going to be so interesting, the next escape room we do after playing these.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
But going back to what you just said about the controls, the good thing about this game is when you play in virtual reality, if you forget what the controls do, you can literally turn your head and look at the quote-unquote wall, and there's a diagram that tells you what each button does.
I don't think I noticed that.
Oh, really?
I noticed it in the main room.
Yeah, in every room. Whenever you're playing a bomb.
I totally did not notice that. Because I was focusing on the bomb.
That box, man. You got to get out of it.
I know. I only see what's in front of me.
So far, we've only played maybe the first 2 chapters. And I've seen videos where there are, I want to say, up to 8 different modules on bomb that's front and back.
Oh, wow.
So we still have some ways to go before we can be experts. But
excellent.
Yeah, the ones we've done so far have only had like 3 or 4 modules and 3 to 5 minute time limit, and we've gotten most of those. So we have some catching up to do.
Yeah, this is fun.
Yeah. And for more information about Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, go to Keep Talking Game, on Facebook, Keep Talking Game, and on Twitter, Keep Talking Game. So what else is going on?
Well, you know that I just did a haunt last night.
Which one?
Last night was The End from Heretic Haunted House. And I was in a undisclosed location in downtown Los Angeles. And The End was sort of a compilation show, because they've been doing this mythology, the Heretic storyline. Some of the shows have been tied together, not all of the events that they've done, but you've sort of been following a couple of characters that mildly reoccurred. And what they did last night was called The End, which was supposed to end this mythology and bring it all together. So what they did is they brought in small snippets from all of the shows that were part of the mythology. So because I was at like the first few shows that Heretic did, I recognized a couple of sequences from those shows. So it was really interesting.
So were they just scenes, or like what?
It was all tied together. It was somewhere between an hour and a half and 2 hours long.
No. I mean, from the shows that you did, and you recognized things. Were they just scenes from those shows?
Yes.
Like certain aspects, or
just
characters?
scenes.
Okay.
Just scenes, aspects. One character, a variation of one of my favorite characters I've ever met in Heretic. I've made reference to this to you, Mike, the demon character that I met in Masochism.
Oh yeah.
Who came out of nowhere and wrestled me to the ground and dragged me across the floor. He came back last night. He was there hanging out. So it was a mixed bag. It was, I think, because of the compilation, sort of a greatest hits vibe. It wasn't very cohesive as an event, as a show, but this thing really had some wonderful visuals in it, and there was some really dramatic moments. And the other thing, Mike, that he experimented with, Adrian Marcato is the creator of the show, more dialogue for the characters.
Oh, interesting.
Because that's something that Heretic, usually you are encountering characters who don't interact with you a lot. The interaction wasn't there dialogue-wise, but there were a couple of monologues that usually those characters don't speak that much in the Heretic shows. So that was really interesting. I haven't done a Heretic show in quite a while. They're very hard to get into. This began with the Mythology, which apparently was from the very earliest Heretic show ever, where you met a woman and she explained that she had lost a daughter and she felt somebody had taken the body and was hiding her daughter from her. So I encountered that woman in the dark. I walked in and we walked in pairs, and the woman who was with me was immediately grabbed and taken someplace else. I don't know what happened to her, but this old woman approached me in the dark, and you know, she had a small light on her, and she told me the mythology, which sort of set up the show. And then I'm not going to give a walkthrough, but you know, some of the highlights were, you know, I was taken around, and suddenly there was this beautiful moment, Mike, where after I talked to the old woman, she turned me, and there was this figure beckoning me across the room. I saw a light on the other side of the room, and as I approached, there was opera music playing. And as I approached, what I realized was that it wasn't opera music playing. It was an actual opera singer in the room. Oh, wow. And she was performing.
That's awesome.
And it was just like this beautiful moment. And I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. Well, no, you know what? I'll reserve that. She came back later in a very interesting way for me. And as I was listening and really enjoying, you know, just I was standing there staring at her performing. I was like 3 or 4 feet away from her. I was suddenly grabbed by this demon character and wrestled to the ground. And, you know, at one point I was sitting in a chair, and there was another sort of undead sort of character who came and was inspecting me. And all of that opening sequence was sort of Masochism, which was the first show I ever attended from Heretic. So I started immediately, I was like, oh, like he really is starting at the beginning and going through all the shows. And then we went into, one by one, all of us, the entire audience was, and I think there was 9 of us, if I'm not mistaken, were taken into sort of a tent. And the old woman came in and told us more about the daughter. And you started to get the sense from her that things were not well in the family. And then at one point we met Lucy, who is the daughter character, and she began telling us that she was being hurt by the people that her mother was associating with. And you got a whole bunch of family stuff through dialogue, which is so rare for the Heretic show to just spell stuff out, even though it was not spelled out clearly. That was fascinating, and I really like that direction for Heretic. I thought it was fascinating. And at one point during this sequence, someone came in and started wrapping duct tape around us to sort of hold us in position there, and kind of like was roughly handling us in the chairs that we were seated in. And then that was sort of like the first act. And then there was a brief break as we were let out of that sequence, and we had gotten the family information and all of that. And literally, we walked out and they checked on us and like, everyone okay? Anyone want some water? And then one by one, we were kind of called away, and we were led into. And again, I'm not going to give too much of a spoiler thing. We were led away and told to go find something. We had to find a vehicle, and later on, the vehicle actually took us back to the location, which I thought was fascinating and kind of surreal in a way. And there were some interesting characters inside the car that we interacted with very briefly. And when you finally got back from the vehicle actually drove into the warehouse location where the show was. They opened the door and they actually drove the vehicle in, and we were all taken out of the vehicle. And there was someone crying for help in front of the vehicle in the headlights, and we were forced to watch her beg. And then it became sort of a weird version of a sequence from Midnight Killer 2, where there was this huge mosh pit, and we were sort of joined together and forced together, and at times people would grab you and wrestle with you and then throw you back into the crowd, and then you were taken out and somebody would whisper something in your ear and you were thrown back into the crowd. And in the middle of this, I was dancing with some of the characters, and the opera singer came up and began singing to me. And you're not supposed to touch the actors, so I wanted to sort of offer something to her, and so I put my hands out, and she took my hands, and like we raised our hands in the air as she was singing, and it was this weird, surreal, beautiful moment in like it's a mosh pit and people are jostling each other and around us, and I am holding hands above my head with an opera singer singing to me.
That's awesome.
It was like, and I'm looking around going like, this is so bizarre. It was beautiful. There's completely surreal, which is sort of what I missed about Heretic, because I haven't been to a show in I think over a year. And like moments like that are really weird. Like this show had several of those that worked really, really well. Unfortunately, like I said, because of the compilation, it was a really uneven show. And so story-wise, I don't think it was extremely cohesive. And in the whole middle section, the mosh pit, the woman in front of the car, made no sense to me. And didn't fit story-wise with the beginning and what eventually ended up happening at the end. I'm not exactly sure why I was on that journey. And there was sort of a sequence where we had to undress, and we went into another sort of tent area, and we were told to lay down. And this is where Paratoxic came in. You attended Paratoxic. Yeah. And you remember that it was about illness. Mm-hmm. And at the beginning of Paratoxic, at the beginning of that show, someone infected you. Yeah. And so we were made to lay down next to each other, and we had been told to undress, so we were all in our underwear. And there was sick people there in the room, wailing and moaning and telling us not to panic and telling us that we were going to be okay. And when we laid down, you found out that the floor had been completely covered in something that felt like mucus. And so you stuck to the floor. And so anytime you moved, you heard the sticky, like,
oh, I hate that feeling.
And we were laying on wet, sticky plastic. And again, these are the surreal moments that I like from Heretic. At one point, one of the sick people was next to me, and he was coughing on me. He was sort of waist level with me. I was laying down, and he came up, and what I did is I turned my hand over, and he took my hand. And I rolled, as soon as I disconnected myself from the sticky floor, sort of rolled over, and I clasped his hand in mine and to offer comfort. And that's the sort of thing that worked for me in this show. It really did. At one point, a woman came over, and again, and this is, Heretic is sort of known for its grotesqueness at times. Like, a woman literally spit in my face, like spit phlegm, and coughed literally, and it was her phlegm was running down my cheek at one point. Like, I don't need that in a haunt. I'm like, sorry, it's like at that, because what it does is it completely removes me from the show. Here I was comforting this possibly dying person and having this moment, and then suddenly there's phlegm running down my face. It was just like, well, you just took that someplace unpleasant. It's just like, and the reason I'm saying that is because what it did is it rather than enhancing the scene, it took me completely out of it.
Right.
So, and I think that's what I meant by the unevenness of this compilation, is I kept having moments like that throughout. Is like, oh, this is really cool. This is wait, what?
Like having something gross happen for the sake of it being gross.
Yeah, I don't know why she had to do that. And it was to me like completely unnecessary and removed me so badly from the show. And like I said, there were a couple of those moments. So, we were led away from there, and we became part of a weird... We were told that it was a photo shoot, and there was some elements of humiliation, which, I've said before in the podcast, like, that is something that really rubs me the wrong way. But they didn't dwell on it. They didn't really push it a lot. They started taking pictures and filming. And we were led over to an area where there was an actress on a mattress, and we were sort of forced to deal with her sexually. Now, nothing explicit, nothing like, just you had to act out some stuff, and you were being directed, and you were told whether or not you were giving a good performance, and there was somewhat of a humiliation vibe to that, which kind of, again, sort of just, maybe other people really enjoyed that sequence. I didn't. We had been rubbed with blood during the photo shoot, so at this point we were all getting fairly wet and sticky. Moving on from there, we once again met Lucy. Like, we pulled over there, and I had this really wonderful, intimate moment where she explained... I should mention Lucy is part of the mythology of all of the shows. That's why that character keeps reoccurring. And she explained how she was taken, how she was abducted, that she was walking home, and how it happened, and how scared she was. And then suddenly we were grabbed from that and pulled away, much like she would have been pulled away. Which... that's the emotional stuff that really worked for me from this Heretic show. After that, I was kind of like put in front of a wall for a while, and this is near the end of the show. And to get me into the final position, this man came over, and he turned me, and the next thing I knew, I was literally hoisted up in the air and dropped into basically a fireman's carry. Like, he literally picked me up and almost threw me, and then dropped me over his shoulders and carried me to the final sequence. It was just one of those, because you attended Violent Entities.
Yeah.
And there's a moment where that happened in Violent Entities where, like, you physically were moved by someone, and it was actually quite shocking, the ease that he, like, was throwing us around.
Oh, yeah.
So,
dude is strong.
Yeah, and this guy was huge. And at the very end, the mythology sort of came to a complete conclusion because Adrian Marcato, who is the creator of the show, came into the sequence and had a conversation with Lucy where you should know, if you don't know, this mythology is based on a friend of Adrian's who was actually murdered. And some of this is a tribute to his lost friend, which is, I think, one of the reasons at times during the Heretic shows there's a very genuine sense of loss, and there's a really tragic feel to some of what Heretic creates visually. And I think that's because it's tinged by a very real tragic situation. And at the end, we saw this man and this woman face each other, and he had to apologize for not saving her, and took responsibility for not being there or not accomplishing something that maybe he could have. That was probably the highlight of the show for me. And we were kneeling, looking at this, and the ending of the show ended up with symbolically all of us dying, specifically being shot.
Right.
And, you can take away from that what you want. Everybody dies. And sometimes it's horrible, and sometimes it's violent, and sometimes it's through natural causes. like I said, this particular show felt very disjointed for me, but the things that worked were the moments that felt uncomfortably real. So, kudos to Heretic for creating that. So, not my favorite Heretic show, but I love the fact that they went this direction because it's new, it's ambitious. I think this is probably, the longest show they've ever done because, it was an hour and a half to 2 hours. And, the fact that multiple people were going through, and then I know people got slightly varied scenes. I'm deliberately talking around some of the stuff. I'm sorry if this is coming out disjointed in my description, but literally this happened to me a few hours ago. So it's still kind of forming in my brain. In the end, I hope, Heretic is claiming that this is the end of this mythology and the end of this sequence and that they're going to develop into something new. I hope they are remaining ambitious, and I hope they're remaining, interesting, and I love the surrealness and, the real aspect of, they inflicted pain. There was some pain in the show, nothing too extreme. As long as it's story-based, which is a problem that you and I have talked about past shows, is sometimes they were pointlessly aggressive and it didn't fit in the story. I never felt that about Last Night.
Good.
Because that is a major problem I've had with them in the past. And I think that they have come a long way in going away from the pointless aggressive pain, which actually they've become known for. To some degree, Heretic has this reputation of the haunt that hurts people. And I think that's unfair to them because there's more going on than that. And I think that overshadowed some of the cooler stuff. Last Night was about surreal visions. Last Night was about odd encounters in the dark and in the fog. And it was enjoyable. I'm glad I managed to get back into another Heretic show.
Good.
So, whatever they develop into, I wish them well. I wish them, it's like if Heretic actually is ending, which this was supposed to be the end, I hope the future is bright for them. I really do.
There's a couple things that you mentioned that were different, such as actors having monologues and whatnot, and there was some of that interaction. Do you see a change as far as influences go? Like, do you think that because the immersive theater scene in Los Angeles is blowing up, do you see any of that like as an influence, or would you still call this a haunt?
Oh, I would actually call this a haunt. Because the difference is the interaction. Is like and believe me, immersive theater mode, Russell, there were a couple of times when I really wanted to talk back and offer something. And but what I did is I offered my hand to the sick person for comfort. And when he went away, I was laying down on the ground and there was a person kneeling behind me, one of the cast members, and they were wrapped in plastic and they were coughing. And so what I did is I literally put my hand over my head because they were reaching toward the sky and I reached toward the sky. And he reached and he realized what I was doing. And so I offered him comfort and he clasped my hand desperately. So there was interaction on that level, but not communication verbally.
Okay.
So no, it was not an immersive piece. It was not, immersive only in environment. Because you were completely in a surreal, fog-filled, dark environment. And by the way, their use of lighting is really cool because they have people walking around lighting the individual actors as necessary.
Oh, cool.
So in the fog, and literally, and it's the simplest of techniques. It's like usually, like the hand covers the flashlight, and it gets dim. It's the simplest of techniques, but they were using them very, very effectively. So the environments, yes, immersive, but not interaction.
Right.
Like you didn't speak with the characters.
Okay.
So, and believe me, I wanted to a couple of times. There wasn't at the end of the sequence, sort of the area from Paratoxic. I actually met with a doctor who diagnosed me, and actually it was one of those because the show hadn't been inflicting pain, and so suddenly this guy was hitting pressure points on my body, and it was so shocking. And he's like, "Oh, good, you can still feel pain." I was like, "Yes, I can." So it was like, but he knew exactly what he was doing, and then he diagnosed me, and he had me step in a shower, and a freaking cold shower.
Oh,
Yeah, it was not fun. It was not pleasant, but it fit the sequence very
Right.
well. So there was some interaction in that scene, like in an immersive sequence is what you're talking about. But that was probably like the biggest one, and it was just a few questions being asked.
cool.
So, but like I said, like a great environment, some hits and misses as far as the sequences go. We've talked about Heretic before. Like sometimes they get this weird holding pattern. There was a few flow problems overall, but this show was really enjoyable for me because I have not been to a Heretic show for so long that I had forgotten the surreal imagery. I'd forgotten the really kind of obtuse vibe that they can have. So that was a good thing. That was a good thing to revisit.
Good.
I hope there's more of this in my future.
Yeah, I'm bummed I missed it.
Yeah, I wish you had been there. I really do.
But it's kind of funny because if this is the end of Heretic, it's a perfect bookend because of what happened my first time and now what happened this time.
I can't say it was the best. As a matter of fact, I would say this is probably story-wise the weakest Heretic show that I attended. So very mixed emotions on this one.
Well, it makes me wonder if this is the end of Heretic. Is it the end of the name Heretic or just the story?
I don't know. But, right now, their social media, as far as I know, they are now on their Facebook page, they're directing people to the website.
Right. And what is that website, Russell?
Well, funny you should ask, Mike. It happens to be heretichorrorhouse.com. And on Facebook, you can do a search for Heretic Haunted House. And on Instagram, look up Heretic Haunted House. But on Twitter, it's at heretic_haunted. And, Mike, you and I both received mail.
Yeah, Box of Dread came.
Yeah, the new Box of Dread, which was sort of Friday the 13th themed.
Sort of. Like everything in the box was Jason.
Yeah, it was very, very cool. And, this was, you're more of a collector than I am. So
Okay.
I was not familiar with the Dorbs line, the vinyl collectible.
Because they're adorbs.
Yeah, it's like, it is a very, dare I say, cute version of Jason.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Yeah, and so there's a little vinyl figure in the Box of Dread, which is the Dorbs Jason, number 57. And they also sent the Friday the 13th keychain of Jason Voorhees, which is a pocket pop keychain by Funko. And I love this thing.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
It's just like I don't want to carry it around with me because it's so cute, but I have a feeling it'll end up in my office or something on the shelf. So, and also there's a really interesting piece of art of Jason, an original piece, a print, very, very bloody.
That's the only way he should be.
And my guess is, unfortunately I'm not that great on my chapters. But my guess would be that it'd probably be around Jason from about the fourth or fifth movie, probably.
Probably.
Yeah, because of the shape of the head, which changed in approximately those. And oh boy, I know the Friday the 13th fans are probably just going to be like ripping me to shreds over the fact that I don't know that off the top of my head.
It's okay.
So, and then there are a couple posters. One for a film called Beyond the Gates, and the other one is a small poster for Dead Rising Endgame. Now streaming
on Crackle.
On Crackle. So so there it's a nice little Box of Dread, and again it's just like the value of the two figures alone, and plus the fact that you have this nice little print of art. It's I'm enjoying the Box of Dread subscription for sure.
Good.
You?
I am too.
Yeah. And if you want more information on Box of Dread to learn how the subscription service works and find out more information about what they've put in their boxes in the past, go to boxofdread.com. Look them up on Facebook at Box of Dread. Instagram is Box of Dread, and Twitter is Box of Dread as well. There's some fun stuff, and I believe, Mike, you can go back and bypass boxes, correct?
Yeah, if they have stock left, you can do that.
Yeah, and so it's highly recommend you check out their stuff, even if you don't want to subscribe to their service. You might find a box that just sort of speaks to you. So definitely check out their website.
So that's the stuff we've been up to. Now, what other people have been up to, a few people have announced dates for things that we are very excited about. The first one is Speakeasy. First of all, they're redoing the key for 2 nights, and that is on February 10th and 11th. So if you've heard us talk about the key, which is chapter 1 of the Kansas collection, you should get on that because it's so great, and it's going to be going someplace that's going to be so fun and exciting, and I can't wait.
Yeah, I've said it before. The Speakeasy Society is one of my favorite companies in town. It's like they do such fascinating work, and I was lucky enough to do sort of like both paths of chapter 1 of the key, and it completely fascinating, and highly recommend anyone if you want to dabble in immersive theater, if you want to see what it's like, if you haven't dipped your toe into this pond and you don't want to go to a horror experience, because there are people who don't want to be scared in an immersive environment. Speakeasy Society they are the gateway drug. They really are. Yeah. It's like I think they're so good at what they do. I highly recommend it if and also the key is short. What is it,
about
like
15 minutes?
Yeah,
maybe
20 minutes maybe. So it's an excellent introductory to immersive theater and the Speakeasy Society work itself.
And it's interesting that you did both paths, because I wonder where your allegiances will lie going through the story at this point. And you don't need to say anything. I'm just saying that out loud because doing both.
Yeah. I wonder where your allegiances will lie.
My allegiances, I've only done it once, so I know where my path is going.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Maybe you don't know as much as you think you do.
Oh, whatever. I know what I've been told.
Yeah, that's just it. You know what you've been told.
Yeah, and you think you know what I've been told. So, whatever. Anyways.
This is why we love the Speakeasy Society. Because they create this universe of so many layers. So anyway, the key and the axe.
Yeah, so part 1 is the key, and those tickets are on sale, and that's going on February 10th and 11th. And part 2 of the Kansas collection is called the axe, and those tickets are on sale as well, and that is happening February 16th through 18th. And those dates are on the calendar as well at myhauntlife.com/calendar. And so you can plan your days and ticket purchasing accordingly.
Reign of Terror is a haunt that Mike and I both love. They are out in Thousand Oaks, California, and they are a huge, massive haunt. Great production design, tons of fun. Not really reliant heavily on scare acting, because their production design, their rooms, there's animatronics, there's characters that you meet, like not an immersive level, but they're just a beautiful haunt.
They really are, and it's one continuous long haunt. It's not. They have different sections within the haunt, so it's cool because you're not going through a 3-minute thing and then exiting and then going to the next one. You're just going through this giant long thing. I think when we went through, it was like around 20 minutes for the
I think so,
walkthrough.
Or possibly longer. And at one point it feels like you're underground, and another point it feels like you're in a gothic, mansion of some kind. There's a contamination sort of zombie area. There's numerous aspects to this haunt. It's a great time. It's really fun. Now, they have announced that they are doing an event in February. There'll be more information coming on this, but they have announced that something is happening in February. So follow up on that with rothauntedhouse.com. We highly recommend if you can make it out for that. I know they did an event last year, which I believe was a charity event for Valentine's Day, I think. And I talked to people who went that night. We had something else booked, but I know they got a good turnout. I know it was a great time for people who went. So definitely keep an eye on Reign of Terror.
And then the next thing is Spook Show, the 5th annual Spook Show at Halloween Clubs in La Mirada. That is happening on March 11th, which is a Saturday. And we've gone the last 4 years, and every year it gets better and better. And this
bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and this is such a fun day. You get to see and hang out with a bunch of haunt vendors and just seeing people, because in March it's 5 months after October. So you get to see everyone, and everyone's not in haunt mode, which means people are not stressed out. So it's good. It's good to see people. It's good to hang out with people. And it's just a fun event, and it's free. And Halloween Club usually offers a 40% discount on the entire store. So win, 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 win.
Yeah, absolutely. And the vendors cover everything from furniture to art to escape rooms to haunts to jewelry. There's a little bit of everything, and it just keeps getting bigger and better every year. So definitely check out the Spook Show sale. Go to HalloweenClub.com for more information.
Yeah, and all of these dates and information will be on the website. All of the links to get tickets to everything we just mentioned will be in the show notes for this podcast. Now for some fun things about us. And,
really?
Yeah, and man, one of these things scares me because, but I think it'll be fun. But the first thing is the podcast is now on TuneIn. The TuneIn app is basically an app where there's a ton of radio shows, and they're now hosting podcasts as well. So if iTunes or streaming on the website isn't your cup of tea, there's now another option. You can listen to us on the TuneIn app. So go to the TuneIn search area, I guess, and search for My Haunt Life, and we will come up. And you can also do that on their website as well.
That's at tunein.com.
Yes, it is. Now, this is something I think is going to be fun and scares me at some points too.
Yeah.
We have a phone number that you can call. It's the Haunt Line. Get it? Haunt Line?
Yeah.
Because people call it Hotline.
Yeah.
The Haunt Line.
Yeah.
My Haunt Line.
Yeah.
My Haunt Life Line.
Yes.
Haunt Life Hotline.
So where it makes sense, because anytime that I use dictation or and I say haunt, it always corrects it to hot.
Oh, really?
Oh, have you ever used dictation?
No, comma, Russell.
Oh, okay.
Exclamation point.
No, if you use dictation, the haunt, because of the soft N or whatever, it comes up as hot, HAUTE, or hot, or hog, or hot,
Ooh.
HAUGHT.
My hog life. Where we talk about bacon all day.
Yeah, really. So I have some bacon jerky in the fridge.
Why is your jerky in the fridge?
Because I like it cool.
Okay. That seems weird.
You don't put your jerky in the fridge?
No.
It's better cold. Try it.
Okay.
Household tips with Russell.
I don't know. I feel like this might turn into a team fridge or team room temperature.
All right, we have completely digressed. But no, if you use dictation for My Haunt Life, hot always becomes some other word. So anyway, continue about this phone number, Mike.
Yes, so we have a phone number, and you can use it to text us or call us and leave us a voicemail. No one will answer, so if you have a weird phone phobia and are afraid that Russell will pick up one day and talk to you, don't worry, because he won't. It'll go straight to voicemail. And yeah, it's open to everyone. Leave us a message if you want to tell us about things you heard about coming up. You want to tell us about an experience you had, pretty much anything. And, if we may or may not use some of these recordings on the podcast. So remember that.
Real life scares, perhaps?
Yeah. Anything, your first haunt, your first immersive experience, leave us anything. If you want to tell us you hate us, which just opened a door, I'm pretty sure, do that too. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how this goes.
This is an experiment, basically.
But if we get a bunch of people that we know calling Russell for sexual favors, we'll probably stop it.
So.
Or block your number.
Or I'll call you back.
Yeah, that too. That's the real haunt life. But anyways, if you want to give us a call or a text, it's 515-428-6852. Now you may be thinking, how the hell can I remember all of those numbers? Well, that number translates to 515-HAUNT-LA. So when you look at your phone, you may notice that there are letters on each number. And if you spell out Haunt LA, that comes out to 428-6852. We're clever sometimes. So all you need to remember is 515 Haunt LA.
Mike was very proud of that.
I totally was.
I know. You were excited.
So yeah, give us a call, shoot us a text, 515 Haunt LA, put us up in the women's bathroom somewhere for a good time call, that too.
And also, we should mention the forums.
Yeah, the forums on myhauntlife.com are going strong. We have quite a few new members, so thank you everyone for signing up. It's really cool seeing everyone in the community come together and talk about things and sharing information and all of that fun stuff.
And it's interesting because we've covered, topics have come up about everything from ticketing for a certain haunt, a Christmas-themed horror movies was one. And actually, I need to go on the forums and respond to someone because they reminded me of something I hadn't seen, and I did check it out during the holidays. So yeah, it's just a place to share some information or ask questions, and you might be able to find someone else in the community who can help you if you have questions about a specific event, something like that. So the forums are something which we hope will become something as a tool that other people can use and explore and learn. And Mike, since we're kind of reaching the end of this, I think, I want to give a shout out to one of the emails that we have received. David sent us an email, and I think he touched on something which, you know, is actually it's not unspoken between you and me, because we've mentioned it in the podcast. You know, he commented on our positivity, I think would be the way to put it. He sent us an email which said that one of the things that he enjoyed about My Haunt Life is that Mike and I are very grateful to what we have and what we have the opportunity to experience and explore.
Especially when I make a list of things I'm not looking forward to, like Halloween conventions a week apart. Whoops.
So it's really nice to hear from someone who understands that what we're really trying to do is Mike and I firmly believe that, you know, this is a community of people, and we have heard from people literally from around the world who have found this My Haunt Life podcast, and the feedback seems to be that because our outlook is positive and because we are grateful that people are out there and creating and giving us the chance to explore, it is inspirational to us. And David just sent a really nice email acknowledging that positivity and gratitude. And we just want to acknowledge David back. So there.
Yeah, thanks.
Gratitude right back at you.
Have a safe trip.
So, and something else I kind of want to give a shout out for is your friend Chris from Sunspot Comics.
Yeah.
Who I've certainly met, and you know him better than I do. Chris, in a series of emails, he was part of that conversation of real life scares that began a couple of podcasts ago.
Yeah. And
I asked if he could recommend a horror comic for me, because I used to read comic books, but I was never a comic book geek, nerd. I never fell into that category. And he recommended something called Harrow County. Have you read this?
I haven't.
I picked up the first, book of it, and which collects the first 4 issues. This thing is really lovely, Mike. I'm really glad he recommended this to me for several reasons. First of all, it is sort of a southern horror theme, and it is by Cullen Bunn and Tyler Crook, for the comic book people out there. Here's the thing. One of the things, Mike, you read, and I read, and one of the things I love is when I'm reading a book and I discover something that I don't know, or I discover a word that I don't know and I have to go look it up. I love that when a book kind of challenges me. Harrow County has introduced me to a term called haints. Are you familiar with it?
No.
I did, and literally it was like when I encountered it, and it kept coming up in the book, and I was like, is this, like what is this? Haints is a southern version of the word haunt. Oh. And it has transformed to mean various things in various areas. But one of the creators of Harrow County apparently grew up in the Carolinas, and haint, very specifically in the Carolina area, usually means a ghost of some kind. And so I just was fascinated by the fact that like I've never heard this word. And it's like, and Harrow County tells the story of a young girl who in the first 4 issues, which is what I've gotten through so far, may be connected to a witch from the past of this town in this area. And so she's learning about herself. She's just had her 18th birthday, and she's kind of coming into her own as a woman and finding out that she may have a legacy that might be more of a burden than she wants. Definitely horror-oriented, definitely lots of spirits and ghosts and things to deal with. And the other thing, Mike, is I kept looking at the artwork, and I just handed Mike the book. Sound of softly turning pages. The artwork in Harrow County is done with watercolors. And so it has this really sort of, I don't know, ethereal vibe to it. It's, you know, and because she's wandering through the woods a lot and it's a farm territory sort of story, the artwork is beautiful in this thing. And I'm really, really enjoying it. And I just want to thank Chris for the recommendation of Harrow County. And the first 4 issues is sort of a story arc called Countless Saints. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that. That's great. And I really appreciate, and again, this is sort of the community thing that I love so much, is the fact that, you know, I just said, you know what? I don't have that in my life. Can somebody give me something to look for? And he did, and I completely have fallen for it.
That's
really,
awesome.
Really enjoying it. So thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate that recommendation.
Thanks, Chris. So that about wraps up this one.
Absolutely.
You're so definitive right now. Like,
We are
yes,
done.
Yes, that is it.
We are done.
Okay, Monfieur. I'll give our info now.
Give the info, Mike.
Oh, there's so many things I could say right now. Anyways, thank you for listening. If you've made it this far, if you want to reach out to us, you can email us at mike@myhauntlife.com or russell@myhauntlife.com with 2 S's and 2 L's. You can call us on the new My Haunt Life hotline at 515-HAUNT-LA. You can check us out on the forums at myhauntlife.com/forums. You can check out the calendar of events at myhauntlife.com/calendar. And you can find us on Facebook at My Haunt Life, and also Twitter and Instagram, also at My Haunt Life.
Thank you very much for listening to the podcast. I'm Russell.
I'm Mike.
See ya.
So everybody else outside that wants to play has a printed out bomb defusal man.
Really?
Oh my God. They have a bomb diffusal. Oh my God. They have a bomb diffuse.
Is diffusal a word?
Yes.
Okay.
Diffusal.
They have a what?
They have, I don't know how to pronounce English words. Okay. And then the people that are playing that don't have the headset on have a bomb diffusal man. Oh my God, I give up. Why can't I say this word? Manual. Diffusal. Diffusal. Sounds French.
Sure.
Okay.